Hi, and welcome to Meet the Mayor. This is Larry Petricaro, and I have Mayor Dean Daffis with me. And we're going to be talking about things Maplewood. So this is our first show of the season. But what I'd like to start with, Dean, if we may, is last Saturday we had a dedication for Jerry Ryan Plaza, somebody that you knew, I guess, in a professional or governmental way, somebody I knew as a friend. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about the background as to what brought it on, what memories you have of Jerry in that capacity. He was mayor, I think, for a few years. And,
he was.
Yeah.
He was. So Jerry has left a lasting impression in Maplewood. You cannot talk about the history of Maplewood without referencing Jerry Ryan. He served the town for so many years. He was on the planning board for over a decade, and he just loved this town. And you know that Jerry was a big personality. He was big physically and big-hearted, and he just loved advocacy. He loved challenge. And he was really, really engaged with the community and inspired by the community's engagement. So when he passed during the pandemic, we wanted to honor him in some very big way. And if there's anyone who deserved an honor like that, it's Jerry Ryan. So, you know, it was very moving. We dedicated the front plaza of our town hall, which is our public gathering place. It's where we gather to protest. It's where we gather to celebrate. It's where we've gathered to mourn, right? And raise issues. And I thought it was very, very fitting to dedicate that place to Jerry. He spent so much of his time there. And I think he would have really, really loved how we all came together. So we've been working on this project since his passing. And it all kind of aligned because we were also at the same time already engaged in improving and updating our front plaza. Our steps had been crumbling and, wear and tear, weather, and so on and so forth. So we thought, you know what? Why don't we add some sort of plaque or some honor to Jerry. So we decided to dedicate the plaza, rename it. It is now forever going to be the Jerry Ryan Plaza. And we have a wonderful plaque in the new stone, telling a little bit about him. And his family was there from near and far, his children, and all of his colleagues, current and past governing body members, and so many, many friends in Maplewood, including yourself and your wife were there. It was really nice to have you with us as well. It was a beautiful, moving ceremony, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there were a number of speakers. I mean, his daughter Christina spoke.
Yes, she was great.
I thought that was very touching.
Yeah.
I mean, for people who may not know, Jerry was quite young when he died. I was 59, I think. And as a friend of ours, there were a couple of things that I was always impressed with Jerry, which may have translated over to your knowledge of him or relationship with him. He was very smart, for one thing.
Very smart.
I think he was given a PhD from NJIT posthumously.
Yes.
But he was given the full PhD because of the work he had done.
Right.
He's very smart, and as you said, he was kind of a big personality.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always admired about Jerry, as a friend when we get together with other friends, was that he always told you what he thought was the truth.
Yeah.
He didn't, and it might have been a position that wasn't particularly popular necessarily, but if that's how he felt, that's how he felt. I don't know if any of that translated itself into what he did with the township.
Absolutely. So I met Jerry as I was just getting involved on the local governing body. I was just starting out, and he saw me at some event, and he said, "You, me, beer at the gate. When can you do it?" And I said, "Okay." And I sort of knew about him. I had never met him, and I was a little bit, I apprehensive. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have a beer with Jerry Ryan. Like around these parts, that's a big deal. Like he's famous. So we met at the gate. We had several beers, not just one beer. Jerry loved his beer.
Yes, he did.
And he was very, very sincere, very welcoming. I called him in my remarks on Saturday, I called him the gentle giant. Despite his being imposing and all of his accomplishments, he was very gentle, and he said, listen, if you're going to do this, be true to yourself, always speak the truth even when it's not popular, and be loud. People need to hear you in order for you to be able to inspire them to join you. That's how you effectuate change. And I certainly have been loud and true to myself and engaging with the community.
And another thing about Jerry that maybe not widely known is his first election. He won by a very small margin.
Yes.
I think he said 4 votes.
Yes.
And I remember that because the person who he was replacing, a Republican, up until I think Ellen Davenport, there were never any Democrats on the township
That's
committee.
right.
And the Republican Party contested the election. There was something about the ballot that they didn't believe was signed by somebody's wife or something, not as an act of fraud because
Right.
the fellow wasn't there. And in the subsequent election, if I remember correctly, Jerry just won by a ton of votes.
Yeah. I mean, they had a special election.
Yeah.
So the elections are in November, and as you said, it was contested, and so they had a special election in April,
Mm-hmm.
and more people turned out in April than they did in November. Right after winter, and he won resoundingly, and he was, I think, the youngest member to get elected on the township committee as well,
Yeah, and he was the youngest mayor, I believe.
and the youngest mayor. Yes.
Something apparently he was wanting to remind people of. That they'd
Yes.
forgotten.
Yes.
I think that was your point when he was there.
Right.
Well, yeah, certainly as a community member, as a member of the township committee, and personally as a friend, it certainly was deserving, and I was glad to see that was done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
to more perhaps mundane but consequential issues,
Mm-hmm.
I believe the fire departments in Maplewood and South Orange are beginning to merge.
They're merged.
They're merged. So
Yeah.
perhaps you can tell us
Yeah,
a little
so
about that.
officially as of this past July 1st, our Maplewood and South Orange have one fire department. It's called the South Essex Fire Department, the SEFD.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you were able to join us, but also on Saturday, this past weekend on Sunday rather, we had an official celebration. And we had members of the Murphy administration there. And obviously we had South Orange and Maplewood elected officials. And we had 9 new members to the fire department
Really?
that were sworn in, and we had their family and friends there to witness the swearing in as they took the oath of office, the oath to serve rather. And it was a beautiful, moving ceremony. And I talked about how, good government, people always say they want good government. And certainly at the local level, on a lot of the issues, it doesn't really matter, Democrat or Republican,
Mhm.
but people want to know that you're being efficient, you're meeting the need, you're expanding service, and you're making us safer. And that's what we did with this merger. It's a shared service. We hope it's a model for other municipalities who are also similarly situated. We are sister towns. Our geography is very intimate. We already receive mutual aid from Irvington and East Orange. So there's absolutely no way that you're never going to have a fire engine show up to an incident. In fact, with this merger, we're going to have more fire personnel at any incident at any time than we did before as just Maplewood, or on the other side as just South Orange. So it really works. Now, it was complicated, and as I said in my remarks at the ceremony, it was painful, because Maplewood is not a civil service town, and South Orange is civil service. So we really had to work that out. we had to make sure that our fire personnel, our men and women, knew that we were trying to do this to benefit them as well. We were not anti-union. So we found a way to negotiate in such a way that Maplewood is now going to be civil service. Of course, we found the necessary waivers for current personnel to enter the department with their current ranks and not subject to any changes, right? And other hires will be subject to civil service going forward. And we hope that will also diversify the department in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
when you mentioned civil service, what's the distinction there between what Maplewood was and what Maplewood is now or is going to be because of that distinction?
Yeah, so the state civil service system for state employees and other employees subject to civil service who are not working for the state in other capacities, they have very strict regulations on how you can hire and the positions, how they are posted,
Mm-hmm.
and you're subject to testing whenever the Civil Service Commission offers a test, an open test for people to compete in the open market for that position. Maplewood just hired and promoted on its own. We weren't subject to those regulations. So we didn't have that bureaucracy, and now we will have that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think ultimately it was really worth it to get to where we are.
Okay.
And we're not losing anything in terms of our existing firehouses, not losing anything in terms of equipment. Each town retains its equipment. But hopefully after the first couple of years of setting this up, we're going to definitely see significant savings.
Not despite the savings, I mean, obviously that's the, if you can save the money, you can reallocate it, I guess, the things that you need as well.
Yeah.
So that's an
Yeah.
efficient way to do it. But will there be any additional activities or services? I mean, one thing I was thinking about was the EMT, Maplewood Fire Department. I don't know if South Orange has.
They have the South Orange Rescue.
The Rescue Squad, that's a
Right.
volunteer organization.
Right.
How
So
will that?
both of those are going to carry on, and whenever at any one time there isn't sufficient personnel, we receive supplemental support for EMS from St. Barnabas.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Now, will there? It's kind of a mundane thing, but will they be repainting the trucks?
I think the trucks have been repainted.
Really, with the SEFD?
With the new logo, yeah, SEFD. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, the new 9 members that we swore in the other day, they already had their SEFD logos.
What's the and the organization stayed the same? Well, I guess it would have changed a little bit, but the basic kind of organization, a chief and so forth. None of that.
Right. So there's one chief. It's Chief Alvarez,
Okay.
who came from Maplewood. Chief Sullivan, who was the chief in South Orange, is retiring, and we thanked him for his incredible service all these years. So there's one chief, and then there's deputy chiefs behind him, below him, and then the members themselves. Yeah.
Okay. 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 So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Mayor Davis.
When a child is sick, there's one thing they need: a really big cookie.
Welcome to RMHC.
And parents of sick children have tons of decisions to make. Like movie night, game night, or should we finish that book tonight? We don't perform surgeries, just talent shows. We're not big on poking sticks and beeping machines, but we're the best at playing dress up. Well, we have a few beeping machines. We think the tooth fairy should travel everywhere. And while hospitals have doctors and nurses, we have mom and dad. We don't provide treatment, but we do provide dogs. And we throw some really good parties. Because at Ronald McDonald House Charities, we help families feel at home, even when they can't be.
Hi, and welcome back to Meet the Mayor. This is Larry Petricaro with Dean Davis. And we were talking about the dedication of the Jerry Ryan Plaza. And we were talking about the combination of Maplewood and South Orange into a common fire department, which seems to me has all sorts of benefits. It always seemed kind of unusual that we even had that distinction. The towns are so similar in many respects. But the last time we talked a little bit about the master plan.
Sure did.
Maybe you can give us an update on that. I know I had received an email with a request to fill out a survey, which I dutifully did.
Thank you.
So you're welcome.
Thank you for that.
So how about a little bit of how about an update, and when are we going to find out more about it?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking about the master plan. It's one of the most important things that we're doing. And it's a process that will carry through the rest of this year and into and most of all of next year as well. So plenty of time to participate. And we're going to make sure that we get to as many residents as we can. Different groups, different stakeholders, and so on and so forth. So since we last spoke, Larry, we hired a planning firm to do this process for us. And they started with one initial workshop, as you mentioned, a virtual workshop, which launched over the summer in August. And we extended the return through September. Because August is a tricky time to get engagement. People are away, vacations, and so on and so forth. But we've gotten really fulsome engagement, and we're starting to go through that data. And that is just the beginning. It's a stepping stone to further engagement so that we can get an idea of where people are today. Where is Maplewood today? What are our needs? Housing, traffic, development, economic and other, sustainability. You know, what are people talking about? What do they love about our town? Where do they find that we need improvement? Our green spaces, all of these things, right? And we have a public workshop in person on October 25th at 7 p.m. at the Woodland. And we encourage people to come out for that. Come on out and get involved because your voice matters. And we want to hear from you. We don't want people to feel like they were left out of this process because everyone has a lot of opinions about a lot of these issues. But the master plan is, as we said before, Larry, it is going to be the guiding document. And with every project that we review and approve or deny going forward, with every decision that we make in our town, that is going to be the reference point. It's going to be that guiding document. So we want to make sure that we cover everyone. So we're talking to our seniors, we're talking to our youth, we're talking to our business districts, our merchants, we're talking to our neighborhood associations, we're talking to the school district, obviously, you know, they're in our towns. So we're trying to cover all the stakeholders, and there's going to be a lot of public engagement sessions. And those are going to be safe spaces. There's no right answer or wrong answer. This is kind of like, this is my opinion. Great, we're going to note that. And that's going to help us build some data. And from that data, we're going to get to, okay, this is a common theme. And from those common themes, the planning firm is going to make recommendations. And those recommendations will come back to the planning board, whose decision it is to come up with the new master plan. The master plan will need to be voted on. So we are hoping to get a draft document of the new master plan towards the end of the first quarter, beginning of second quarter next year. Stay tuned for more details on that. That's a very rough timeline right now. But yeah, October 25th, we really want people to come on out to that.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about the planning firm that you hired, their experience, what they've done in the past?
Yeah, so BFJ Planning, they have worked in New Jersey. They did a master plan for Milburn most recently, our neighbor, and they've done elements before. We've worked with them in different elements of a master plan, such as mobility and traffic studies and that sort of thing. So they're pretty well known, and we chose them because of their capacity to do fulsome engagement.
And where are they located?
They're located in New York City.
New York City.
Yeah.
But they've not specialized, they've done a lot of work in New Jersey,
Yeah, they've done a lot of work in the region.
in the region.
Yeah.
And I guess that's, in a sense, gives them a more comprehensive look about the interaction of things. I mean, kind of like nothing really exists on its own, does it? It's sort of a
No,
dynamic
absolutely not.
kind of
Yeah,
situation.
and South Orange recently adopted their master plan, and so obviously we're using that as a reference point too, because that's our sister town, our sister community, and you can't talk about traffic, for instance, or our fields, which we share,
Yeah.
without talking, referencing back to South Orange. So it's great. I think we're going to learn a lot about where people are in our community. We're going to learn a lot about our community.
Yeah.
Right now, our current master plan is 20 years old.
Okay.
Now, we've done little versions of this.
Okay.
So state law requires you to adopt an entire new master plan every at least 10 years or so.
Okay.
Okay, that's the guide. We have done re-examinations, which are smaller efforts. They're really focused, hyper-focused on, say, development and housing or something like that. We haven't done a whole new
Okay,
master plan
okay.
in a really long time.
So we're going to more holistically
Yeah,
going to look at
yeah.
that.
So we're looking at Maplewood then, and we're looking at Maplewood now. We've changed a lot.
We've got a then and now and where you want to be.
Exactly.
And that's the whole thing.
Exactly, because this is for the
Yeah.
next 10 so years.
Let me ask a question. I don't know if it relates to the master plan or not, but it has to do with New Jersey American Water, the water distribution system. We received a letter from them saying that they were going to be changing or replacing a lot of their water lines because they had lead. And they also asked us to, this is me and my wife, our house, to check the incoming water line.
Mm-hmm.
And if it were either lead or galvanized steel, they would replace it. So that seems to be happening. But do you have any idea of the time, or maybe you can explain a little bit about the program? I think it was precipitated by a state law.
Yes.
Okay. And any idea of the timing?
Precipitated by state law. There's no way around it. They have to do it. No excuses. And funded by a lot of great federal funds that came out of the Biden administration and the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Because aging infrastructure,
Yeah.
our water lines, our gas lines, our sewers, aging infrastructure. These are towns that are 100, 150 years old, right? So yeah, it's their responsibility. They're going to be replacing it. We are working with them so that they could be more collaborative about their sort of where are they going to be in town next week, and giving us some notice so that our engineering public works department can in turn notify our residents to mitigate inconveniences.
So they're going to have to be tearing up streets. Or
I'm afraid so, Larry.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, that's okay. I mean-
Including streets that have been recently
done,
repaved.
which is
Yes.
one of ours. It's
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
But actually, infrastructure is so key, so important to so many things, and I guess of course the master plan, you're going to talk about that as well. But is this expected to be done in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
It's expected to be done within the year. I don't think
Really?
it's going to be done by the end of this year.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be work. I mean, certainly if the conditions, it gets too cold out there and we have
Sure.
winter conditions, they're going to have to stop the work.
Well, Newark did something in apparently a very significantly short amount of time, considering the kind of work it was, right? They
Well, yeah.
replaced a lot of.
They kind of had to, Larry.
Well, yeah,
The kids were drinking,
Lead
lead. I mean,
Well, I know that, but just
major lawsuits.
But just doing the work itself, I mean, to me that was a pretty impressive
Absolutely. Yeah.
job that they did.
It's unfortunately that as a nation we've been reactive instead of proactive about our infrastructure. And yet, we walk on sidewalks, we drive on roads, we cross bridges, and these are the last things that were always funded.
Yeah.
And we're all heartened as local officials because we know that these big projects, we can't take them on ourselves here. I mean, how many bonds are we going to go out for, right? How many tax hikes can we survive? We cannot. We don't have Home Depots in our communities. We are residential communities. Our revenue comes, mostly from property taxes.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't create that system. I inherited it. You inherited it. I hope someone else comes out with a different system. But that is the system, right? And the majority of your taxes go to support the school district, the school. So, we are really, our hands are tied with respect to infrastructure improvements. And yet, we're doing whatever we can. We need the support from the federal government. And there are a lot of projects that we might be eligible for, a lot of grants that we might be eligible for, so that we can improve our sewer line, so that we can do more road paving, so that we can do some of the bigger infrastructure projects that we want to do.
Well, that's you kind of raised an interesting point that we may be eligible for. I presume you're actively.
Yes, sir.
How do you go about that?
You get on the phone, Larry, or you get in someone's face at an event. These events are not for drinking. They're for networking and asking for something. And as the mayor, it's my duty to go out there and represent Maplewood and say, listen, we need this. Certainly Ida, during which, as you know, Larry, we had loss of life in our town.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
We're going out there and advocating for federal funds.
Well, do we have a department within the organization, or a grant writer, or someone like
Yeah,
that?
engineering and our engineering public works team does some grant writing, and then we have a community development director, and she does our grants for us as well. And we've been very successful in getting some of these opportunities that were not previously available.
Are there any that come to mind that you can share with us that
Well,
we might notice?
in terms of these infrastructure projects,
yes.
these are still pending.
They're still pending.
Yeah, and actually Congressman Payne will be joining us on Tuesday night during our governing body public session to talk about some of these opportunities.
Well, that's still our congressman? I don't know when
He
is that?
is.
Until the next election?
Until the midterms in November.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
I guess that has to be the case,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah. So after the census, the most recent census, we were redistricted into NJ11,
Yeah.
and so now we're going to be represented by Congresswoman Cheryl, who is formidable and competent and terrific, and I believe we're going to be very well represented by her.
Well, good. Thank you for that. And Dean, thank you for joining us on Meet the Mayor. And thank you for joining us on Meet the Mayor. So this is Larry Petricaro with Mayor Dean Davis, and see you next time.